Hi, welcome to In Air's Kitchen. Today we're gonna make popcorn, and I've got Violet here to help me. We're using a popcorn right now from Plymouth Grist Mill, and we work with Plymouth Grist Mill to do a lot of things with cornmeal and clover, but they also sell popcorn, and I ordered this on the website. It came really fast, and it was only like $3.50, and it's a pound of popcorn. I love what they do, and I want to thank everybody who's been watching this show. Kim, who runs Plymouth Grist Mill, wrote back to us and said that it's just been wonderful. There's been like a lot of sales from people watching the show. It's really helped a lot. So the popcorn's awesome. I strongly recommend it. And this one comes from Lazy Acres Farm, which is in Hadley, Massachusetts. Here, I think the dishwasher's making a lot of noise. Let's just stop. There we go. All right. You can probably hear me a little better now. This comes from Lazy Acre Farm in North Hadley, Mass. So that's not far from where I grew up. So this is delicious. It's fun to make. You get to support the mission at Plymouth Grist Mill, and you get to support Lazy Acre Farm, which is really awesome. We're going to make popcorn with this today. If you don't have this popcorn, you can use other popcorn. I have a lot of popcorns. I was just looking through this the other day, and I have a ton of popcorns. This one's from Linden Tree, which is a farm just down the street that we do a CSA with. But I also have all these other popcorns, and this just might be fun to share, just because I happen to have these. I collect popcorns when I'm traveling, and you can see they're all in sealed jars. That's because if popcorn loses its moisture, it won't pop anymore. So you really want to keep its moisture. And if you're having trouble with popcorn popping, it may be that you just need to hydrate it a little bit. This one's called ladyfinger popcorn. You can see those delicate little kernels. And I just thought this was fun because there was a point at which I didn't know there were different heirloom varieties of popcorn. And then I started discovering these. A lot of these are from trips when we were driving across country. This one's called mushroom popcorn. And I think that refers to what it looks like when it pops. Let's see what else we have. We've got a couple others. And these are smaller quantities. When I first brought these home, I had larger quantities of them. And if you came to the early days of MIT's truck, Clover's truck at MIT, you may have had these. We used to do movie nights. And when we did movie nights, we do popcorn. And I had this little popcorn popper from my grandma, and I had some of these popcorns I bring. This is another one. This is called Premium Tender Pop, yellow popcorn. So there's all different varieties of heirloom popcorns, and fun thing about popcorn, it's always a yummy treat. We love it. I never make popcorn without people gobbling it up, and it costs almost nothing. And it's a relatively nutritious treat, or at least not unhealthy, and especially if you don't clobber it with a bunch of other things. But so it's not bad from a health standpoint. It's a lot better than potato chips or something like that. And there's all these fun little heirloom varieties. So if you see popcorn at a roadside stand or something like that, pick it up, bring it home. I don't know if I have any examples of it now, but we get popcorn. When that Linden Tree popcorn, we pulled all of that off of a cob, because that came to us on a cob. And so sometimes you'll see it that way too, which is a lot of fun. It hurts your hands a little bit when you're pulling it all off the cob, though, doesn't it? Yeah. You ready to make some popcorn? Yeah. So the method we're going to show you today, I learned how to do this, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or so. And I've never made popcorn any other way since. So I'm going to show you, there's not many magic little secrets that we're going to be revealing on the show, because I think most of cooking isn't really that way. But this one sort of feels like that. If there's anything that's sort of like the trick or secret to making such and such, this is probably that episode, because there's a way to make this popcorn, which is pretty easy to do, which will get 100% of your kernels to pop. And if you've made stovetop popcorn before, I'm sure you've had problems. I've used hot air popcorn making machines and not had all the kernels pop. Even when you do those microwave bags, you have kernels that don't pop. So this is a cool method where we're going to get everything in there to pop, and it works really, really reliably. So it looks like I may have lost my helper. Are you coming back by, or are you gone for good? Hey, Blue. Are you going to take Violet's place? I don't know where she went to. All right. So come on over here, Vi. So So what we're gonna do, first of all, is we're gonna put some oil in there, okay? You wanna do that? You don't need a lot of oil. And here you go. So if you're doing this at home, it depends a little bit how much popcorn you're making, but I would do like at least a teaspoon of oil. You might do like a couple teaspoons of oil. So just pour a little bit of oil right down there, just not too much. Keep going. That's great. All right, so let's take a peek at what Violet just did. So that's like probably 2 teaspoons of oil, which is just what we wanted. Nice job, Violet. Now, what we're gonna do next, Vi, is we're gonna turn on, hey Violet, don't worry about pups. They're okay, they're all right. We're gonna turn on the stove. And I know I haven't really taught you how to do this before, have I? So I'm gonna teach you today, but you can only do this when we're around, okay? But when we're around, you can do it now. So the way this works is you're gonna push that in, and when you push it in here, go click, 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 click. That means back here, the little spark is being formed. And when you push it in, you start that clicking, then you're gonna turn it onto the high setting, and you just go hold it there until the flame comes. Then you can let go. And at that point, you can move it around. And if you move it all the way to low, it stops. If you move it to high, it keeps going all the way to off, and then it's off. So you wanna try and turn that on? And we can turn it on high. Nice job. You did it. High five. You're a stove turner honor now. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is put some popcorns in, but we don't need a lot. So grab like 5 or 6 of those guys. Yep. So step 1, oil in the pot. Heavier the pot, the better. If you have cast iron or something, that's even better. Step number 2 is you put some kernels in there, and you put it on heat. So we're gonna put like 5 or 6 kernels in.
6.
You got that? All right, then we're going to cover this. All right, and shake it around a little bit. All right, so what we're doing now is we're gonna wait a few minutes until we hear this go pop, 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 pop. How many are in there?
6.
Okay, so we might hear it go pop, 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 until there's 6 pops. When we hear this pop, then we're gonna do the next part of making popcorn. Now, so far this might not seem magical. This might be like exactly what you've done with popcorn, or maybe you put them all in at once. But I'll show you. There's a little trick to this, which is awesome. And while we're waiting for that, we can think a little bit about what kind of toppings we're going to put on this popcorn. Violet, I got nutritional yeast out because I think that's super yummy. You like that idea? And then I was thinking about some other things that might be yummy. And I was thinking, let's do one. I've got some mushroom powder, and you like that. We'll do that one on one bowl that maybe you not going to eat as much of. I've got some sesame seeds, and I love butter and soy sauce together, and I think that's a really yummy combination. I think that might be a fun thing to put on some of our popcorn. Do you want to grab some soy sauce from the fridge?
Sure.
And some butter, maybe?
There's kind of a question.
Okay, what's the question?
There's a question. Wow, big dog behind you. What kind of dog is it?
Well, great question. That's a real question. Oh, I hear one. I heard 3 pop, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the heat now. All right, come on over here, Vi. We'll go back to that. We're on now. Well, so we stop the heat, and now we're gonna add the popcorn kernels in. So Violet, go ahead and add in like a good handful. Yep, good handful. Drop it all. Just drop it. There you go. More. Your hands are little, so let's add like. There we go. So we're gonna put some popcorn in there. Go ahead and drop the rest. Drop it. That's great. All right. So we probably put about half a cup of popcorn in there. You're gonna judge this based on the size of your pot and how much popcorn you want, but the popcorn expands massively, so like a half a cup of popcorn will fill this whole thing up. Now we're going to count, Violet. Can you do a countdown for me?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Keep just 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You want to keep it up?
1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
Count to 30.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
Keep going. Keep going.
2, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Perfect. Now, hold this with one hand, it's not too hot, and hold this with the other hand, and shake it all around. Harder. Yep. Really, you can even pick it up. Alright. Now, this is the magic part. So we had to do that counting. This won't work, this magic trick won't work without that counting. Now we're going to turn the heat back on. You can do it. Okay, so we're going to turn the heat back on to high. And this is the magic. So the trick here is we use those first couple kernels to figure out the exact temperature of this pot in our house with this kind of thickness, with this oil, that's going to pop the kernels because it's at that temperature that they popped. Then we stop the heat, and what happened there is whatever that temperature is, it came down a little bit from that point. And we put all the other kernels in there, and there's still some oil in there, and we shook it all around, and we counted for a while. And what happened then is all those other kernels came up to that temperature of the pot, the right temperature to pop it, minus a little bit. So it came up to just a little bit lower. We waited till it all came to the same temperature, and we turned the heat on, and now you can start hearing it. So all at once, really quickly, they're all going to go right up to that spot where they pop. And we're going to have really good success here. They're all going to pop. We're not going to have any kernels left over. I hear them going. I'm going to get a bowl. And will you get that smaller pot there, Violet? We'll put the butter in there. So you can hear them go. Boop, 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 boop. So that's the trick. You put a couple kernels in, you get the temperature up to the right spot, you stop and hold right at that moment, and then you put the heat back on after you've let everything equilibrate. So you give it like 30, 60 seconds to get all the same temperature. At that point, when you turn the heat back on, really quickly, they're all going to pop, and they're all going to pop in the same window. Yeah?
So our last question was, what kind of dogs do we have?
Oh, I didn't even answer it, did I? I said it was a good question. We have Newfoundlands. 2 Newfoundland dogs. One of them looks like what most people would expect a Newfoundland to look like because she's big. He's big and black. Other doesn't look like what people would expect a Newfoundland to look like because she's gray, and it is a color. She's right outside the door. It is a color that Newfoundlands they come in some different colors sometimes, but it's more unusual. So a lot of people are surprised she's a Newfoundland.
And then there's 2 more questions.
2 more. All right. Also about the dogs.
Which type of oil is best?
All right. I'm hearing the last pops.
Also, was that oil smoking?
So what kind of oil is best? I would do like a canola oil, some sort of a neutral oil generally, but I've done it with olive oil. You can use anything. This one I think is this one's a sunflower seed oil, organic sunflower seed oil, milled in New York. This is like a nice sort of locally made oil. I think I may have gotten this at the Codman Farm Store. I'm not totally sure, but I think it's fun to support someone who's making oils. I always think about that when I'm spending money on food. I'm always thinking less about how much am I paying for a jar of milk, how much am I paying for a stick of butter, and I'm always thinking instead of what am I doing with my money when I make this choice. And I'd love everybody to think about that because there are people doing miraculous things in our food system, and usually what they are asking for to support that isn't actually that much money. So that oil may have been more expensive than a grocery store canola oil, but I'm really happy to be supporting those guys. All right, so I gotta make sure there's no water in there, and the popping's all done, and I'm hoping that this isn't gonna make me look silly, and I'm hoping we have 100% of our kernels popped. Oh no, we had a few that didn't, Violet. So I wonder if that's because we didn't count long enough. Count to 60 instead of 30. You might have a better result. So we do have a couple there that didn't pop, but most of them popped. Usually when I do this method, I get all of them pop. But I think it might just be that we didn't let the whole thing get to the right temperature. Should we try? Should we put some toppings on it now?
Sure.
All right.
Somebody said they usually add cashews, dried cranberries, and cinnamon.
Whoa, that sounds delicious. I don't have any cashews. or dried cranberries, but if I did, I think I would try that out. That sounds really good to me.
We have cranberries, I know that.
So that's the method we use for popcorn. We put a couple kernels in with some oil, we bring it up to the right temperature where they pop, we stop and leave it there, we put the other kernels in, count to 60, not 30, I think that'll work a little bit better. And then you bring the heat back on it and they'll all start popping. And we have really beautiful popcorn. And if you have trouble with your popcorn popping, like you're getting really bad results of popping at home, it's probably because your popcorn doesn't have enough moisture in it, because it needs that moisture to pop. And if you have really old popcorn, it becomes dehydrated, it loses that moisture. I think there are ways that you can rehydrate your popcorn, but that is what's going on most of the time when the popcorn's not popping. And I'm just making a little mixture right here of soy sauce and butter, and I think that's going to be delicious on the popcorn. I have some shiitake powder, I just had some shiitake in a mushroom share. Whenever I have shiitake in a mushroom share and I haven't eaten them, they're getting old, I just dehydrate them and then I throw them in the blender, and so that becomes this little powder. So we're going to put a little bit of that powder on, and I've got some toasted sesame seeds I toasted up another time, maybe for sushi or something, and I'll sprinkle a little bit of that on. So that'll be some fun flavors together. And then we have, right here I've got curry powder. This comes from Curious Spices. We love what these guys do. They're based in Cambridge, and they have really beautiful, high-quality spices. We buy from them at Clover for some of our spices. This is a curry powder that they have that's not very spicy. It's filled with spices, but it's not like burn your mouth spicy. And that's going to be a really yummy topping for me. So we'll do that on one of them. We'll probably need a little salt, and I'll show you a trick when you're salting your popcorn. It works really well to make your salt as fine as possible. So I'm going to use this mortar and pestle, and first of all, that's actually yeast in there. I have this little experiment where I let some of the bread starter go, and it turned into like a hard cake, but it works really well for making bread. So that was just leftover bread starter. But I'm going to put some salt in here. And there's going to be a little bit of yeast mixed in with it, and that'll be fine. When you're using the mortar and pestle, a lot of the action that smashes things happens between the round edge of the pestle and the mortar. So if you go around that outside edge of whatever you've got in there, you'll get a lot of mileage out of your actions. You can see I'm like alternating between going around the edge and then coming down into the middle, and it's going to give me a really fine powder. So this wasn't the thickest. Sometimes I have much thicker salt. This is like a little bit grainy, but not super grainy. But you can see now this salt is a very fine powder, and that's going to be great on popcorn. And we're just waiting for this butter and soy sauce to mix up. It's almost there. You want to grab me a little spoon, Vi?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Think we should make more popcorn?
Yeah.
That's
Try
it.
maybe again.
Try again, see if we can get a better result. Let's do it. I think we're going to need more. Here. Do you want to do it since you know how now, Vi?
Sure.
Why don't you do it? You got it.
Okay.
Remember, put a little oil in there first. It was this glass jar right there, the big one. Alright, so we just melted up some butter and soy sauce here. That's not a very traditional combination, but it's really yummy. It's really good on white rice. It's like white rice with butter and soy sauce is absolutely delicious. That's good. Alright, do you remember turning the heat on? the back burner. You're gonna want to do this one. There you go. I know, it's that right side, it's the same. Yep. You got it. Yep, you got it. Turn it the same way. Yep. Bingo. You gotta put a couple kernels in there, right? Alright. So, we're just going to put a little bit of this butter and soy sauce on the top of this one. And I'm gonna top that with a little bit of toasted sesame seeds and a little bit of shiitake mushroom powder. And then this one over here. You can have fun with the toppings you're doing. You can do anything you want, really.
It's a little hot on this handle.
So I'm just putting some curry spice on there. It's a little hot in the handle. I'll help you with it. We can put a mat so that we don't burn our hands on that, okay? And then I'm gonna grab, the curry smells really good. I'm gonna grab a little salt. And moving around. All right, now we just have to listen. You want to see what you think of this? Do you like that kind? This is the one with the shiitake on it.
Yeah, I can taste that.
You can taste it. Oh, I'm hearing it. Shiitake's are not Violet's favorite thing.
That's two.
Mm. All right,
Oh,
so.
one more. There's one more.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. So, go ahead and put your popcorns in there. Mm-hmm. Oh, and somebody asked if the oil is smoking. It was, but your oil might not be smoking. I mean, that just has to do with this pan, this oil. The key thing is you just want to do it. You're just doing it until they pop. That's the right temperature. So you're not judging it any other way.
Should we go a little less in this time just because we already made popcorn?
That's good. Yeah, let's do that much. All right, so put that lid on and shake it all around. Let's leave it a little longer. Let's do 60. Here, let me try a little bit. All right, let's give it 60 seconds this time. Are you counting your head?
Yeah.
Yeah. What should we put on the next ones? More shiitake powder?
I don't know.
You want to put your nutritional yeast on one of them? This is the curry powder. Have you tried that?
Try it.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
All right, let's say that's a minute. We'll bring the temperature back up on it. So we're just doing the same thing we did last time. We just let it sit a little bit longer. Remember, the idea is we are hoping that all the kernels in there, the pot, we're hoping the oil, the pot, the kernels, everything has gotten exactly to a temperature that's right below the spot where the popcorn's going to pop. And as we apply more heat, we're hoping that everything being equilibrated, being right at the right temperature, as we bring the heat up just a little bit, we'll start getting to all pop together. And the idea is that we shouldn't have any leftover kernels.
Yeah.
You hear them?
Yeah.
Yep, there they're going. Now, it's always tempting to open that lid, but from experience, they can pop out and get you in the eye. So you need to sort of wait until they stop making their pops. And that's going to be about it. So this is a very short episode. It's a little teeny trick. Like I said, it's probably like the trickier of all the things I've shown so far in the show. But at first I want to just remind people you can make popcorn. You can make it with, all you need is a pot and a stove. And it's super cheap. This whole pound of popcorn we bought was $3.50, and this is as nice as it gets. It's a beautiful heirloom, organic, local popcorn. And it's pretty quick, and I know we're going to eat up all this popcorn. This is why we're making extra, because it's going to go quickly. So we're listening for those pops to stop.
Sounds like it's done.
Almost. You think? Think it might be done? I think it might be done. All right, let's see this time. Did we do a better job?
I think we did.
You think we did? All right, so, oh, perfect. That's the perfect pops. We have like one that half popped here, but every other one pop. Oh, there's one more kernel. So we have 1.5 that didn't pop, but every other one popped. That's great. So that's what we're looking to have happen. So I think that first time we didn't let it sit quite long enough. And that is our episode for today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be off tomorrow because it's Violet's birthday. We're going to be back next week. And Monday, we usually do sweets on Mondays. I think we're going to do whoopie pies Monday. So if anybody wants to make whoopie pies at home, we're going to walk you through that. And what I'd recommend is if you haven't yet, go back to the fluff episode, which was this past Monday, because we're going to fill our whoopie pies with fluff. Partly because I've got lots of fluff in the fridge, but we've been eating a lot of fluff, and I've been thinking that would be a killer filling for whoopie pies. So if you haven't yet done it, make yourself some fluff, and you'll be ready to follow along on Monday with the whoopie pies. The cake for the whoopie pies is very, very similar. It's basically an adaptation of the wacky cake recipe that we made very early on when we started doing the show. So we're sort of going to take two different episodes, the wacky cake and the fluff, and combine them to make whoopie pies. And then we're going to do a few other things next week. I think we might do veggie burgers, which is something I thought might be a lot of fun for people. And if there are any other requests, send them our way, and we'll do our best to catch up on them. Thanks again to everybody, and we really have gotten some really nice thank you notes from Kim and some of the other suppliers we've been featuring here. Thank you so much for supporting them. It's one of the hardest things, or things that weighs most heavily on me, I think, during this shutdown period is, one, not being able to pay employees. I think that's been really rough. And number two, not being able to pay our suppliers. And so the more that we can do to bring attention to the wonderful things they do and send some of you their way, I think it's a really welcomed and wonderful thing. And thank you, everybody, for helping out in that way. Have a good night.